Hey guys, it's Bill from Linden, Tennessee. On this weekend's update, I have to kind of apologize because I didn't take a whole lot of video. No, I didn't take a whole lot. I didn't take any video of doing the things I'm about to tell you that I had to do. So let's just talk about it. Not a lot to look at the moment because I got it all back put together. On the last video, I talked about how I had to replace the whole front end. Well, in assembling the front end, I discovered that the front U-joint on the front differential, there's a drive shaft that goes from the rear transmission to the front differential. I found that front U-joint was just ruined, it was mangled. So I needed to replace that. And the way you replace that thing is underneath this battery box, there's a carrier bearing, and it supports the front half of that drive shaft and the back half of the front drive shaft. You know what? Let's go underneath. Let's go underneath. Let's take a look. Maybe we can see something. Can we? Yeah. Don't you hate those videos where someone's like really obsessive, compulsive about, let me just show you the thing, and then they're like, and you've already seen the thing, and you're like, please just move on with the damn video. There's the thing. I'm going to move on with the video now. That U-joint up there was murdered, and the way to get this out is you undo these two bolts here, and this shaft slides. There's a slip joint right here. There's a slip joint at the front and rear differentials. Nothing on these slip joints is actually secured. There's no set screws or no clips or anything. It's all just free floating. In fact, now that I got it all loose, it actually does move. Well, it didn't move. It was all solid and locked up. But the only way to get that is to slide this thing sideways. But unfortunately, jackass me didn't know that. I put that bracket there that's holding this battery box in there. And so that means I had to take this whole battery box out. I put a whole lot of emphasis on the whole battery box, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. I thought it was going to be a big deal, and I dreaded it. And then once I actually did it, it wasn't a big deal at all. All I did was took a piece of 2x6, strung it across the top bars here, hung one of those chain hoists off of that, and then I've got a little bar that goes across on underneath of here. Can I show you that? On the underneath of here, I've got a bar that goes across and lifts up on some bolts, some all thread that goes through and ties this whole battery box together. I can't really show you that. Yes, I can. There, see how there's that, and it ties it all together. Anyway, God, I'm being that guy again. I'm sorry. Lifted this thing, undid the 8 little bolts on the bottom that holds it to the bracket that I just showed you, and then just jacked the thing up and then slid the 2x4 forward so I could get it out of the way. And that allowed me access to that thing, and I could beat on it with a hammer and use some knocker loose and penetrating oil and all that stuff. And needless to say, I got it out. Ordered new bearings, U-joints, replaced them, cleaned up, lubricated the slip joints so they're nice and free now. And while I had it out, it's kind of a good thing because I was able to clean this up. This is where the tubular frame used to be for the seat base. Clean that up and got it down to raw metal. And then also on the front, I had little tubes that stuck up higher, which not only prevented this from sliding forward easily, but it was making it more difficult for me to figure out how in the hell I'm going to mount a seat box. So I did that, and yeah, one of the issues that I did come across though, after I put the seat box or the battery box back, is up underneath here is one of my coolant fittings, and it was interfering with that bar that goes across. So I had to take this battery box out, notch that bar a little bit, and now I can access that fitting. So that's pretty cool. I found a spot for my little water pump. The way this is going to work, my coolant tank is obviously right there. The coolant is going to go down into that little water pump. It's going to pump up and over, and I think I'm going to put my controller back here. From the controller, it'll go back, it'll go into that lower coolant line, and it'll come up and it'll spit out this way and then go back into my coolant reservoir. On the last video, I had a few people voice some concerns about my little chill plate here that I had beautifully CNC'd out. My little chill plate here was that I should probably like weld things together or something, because there's going to be a lot of pressure in there. But There will be no pressure on this system at all. This thing isn't going to get hot enough. This will never get hot enough. You could always be able to touch this. This will just barely be warm, and the coolant is just kind of a, to make myself feel a little bit better. And since I'm running coolant through that anyway, then I went ahead and ran all the coolant through the batteries. But it's not going to ever get warm enough to build up any pressure, and so there you go. It's not a problem. Yeah. And what else? I went ahead and 4th of July weekend is next weekend, so I went ahead and got the rear all apart. That way, if I needed any bearings or any U-joints or drive shafts or anything, I could go ahead and order that stuff and have it for next weekend. But as it turns out, I didn't need any of that stuff. My brake kit that I ordered came with a full set of brake shoes for front and back and new wheel cylinders, so I just went ahead and replaced all that stuff. I got new parking brake cables and have those right there. And this thing is going to mount, I'll have a tube, square tube that comes probably up at an angle and then sort of traces the side of this. And then this tube, I'm going to have it up higher. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a big old, what I'm going to do is on the bottom of that tube from here up, I'm going to have little standoffs on this mount. This is what used to hold this entire battery box on the bottom of my Jeep. So this is solid. This is 14 gauge metal here, and so this is nice and solid. So I'll use that as my seat base. And then it'll just have screws from the bottom. Then if I ever have to remove this thing again, all I have to do is I'll have some, it'll just bolt. It'll bolt here with a flange. My tube will come across. This tube will go across also, and it'll bolt from the bottom. And I can just unbolt it there, and lift this thing out. What I'll do with this will bolt onto the side. It'll bolt on that tube, but I'll have a flange. I'll have a flange that either small tabs right here with bolts, or one continuous one with bolts. But then it'll bolt to that thing. So if I ever have to replace this, then all I have to do is unbolt this thing, set it aside, not have to worry about taking my parking brake apart, and take this seat box out, and then I can take the battery box out. That's how that's going to go. So that's pretty cool. I got some plexiglass for there. It's all foggy now because the protective cover is still on it, but that's nice just to keep crap out of there. And yeah, so that's started working on coolant today. And this aluminum underneath on this chill plate, I don't know what kind of aluminum is. I'm not the world's best aluminum welder. I'm all right, but this is some kind of weird shit. It pretended to be more like stainless than aluminum, but it's not stainless. It's definitely aluminum, but I don't know what composition or what kind of alloy it is, but it just didn't work at all. So I went ahead and ordered another piece of 6061 aluminum. I know that stuff welds, and then I'll remake that chill plate. And it's a little bit bigger. I think the piece I got's a 12 by 12, so I can kind of put a little bit more thought into my mounting situation. But like I said, this thing's gonna just kind of bolt straight down here, and the negative cable just comes straight from the battery into it. And I'm gonna have all the stuff that I've talked about before. I'm gonna put the box here on the side instead of having it right there. It's gonna be more accessible because there's a fuse in there, a couple fuses in there, so it'll be more accessible. And I'm just gonna have the positive run in here. Previously I was thinking I was going to have negative and positive, but I'll just have the positive cable goes over to my little disconnect, and then it'll go from there into this thing, into the main fuse, from that fuse into the shunt, from the shunt it'll go to the contactor, from the contactor it'll come back around and then go out. I'll just have them both going out the side here, and then it'll go down to that terminal right there, and it'll come up to the controller, and then from the controller the negative side will go over to that terminal over there, or something like that. Or I don't know, but it's going to be much simplified that way. And I'll have a couple wires coming out to control the contactor. I might actually end up putting this underneath the lid, now that the lid is a lot more accessible. I may still end up doing that because it'll be nice and out of the way, and it'll be protected from the elements. Probably still going to do that. So I'll just have two 12-volt outputs for that. I will need some small 96 volt outlets for my little JLD monitor, and I'll need inputs for the charger. And the charger, hold on. Charger, I think I've got a couple options for that. I may mount it up here, and that'd be kind of nice because there's a grill that goes over that, so you won't be able to see it. I may mount it there. The problem with mounting it there is I've got to run 96 volt, large 96 volt cables all the way up here. Not large, but kind of large. But if I did that, I'm going to ramble now. If you don't want to listen to this, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. So if I did that, I can just run 2 larger gauge cables out of my box over there up to here, up to some little distribution terminals. And then from that, I could take and run off to my JLD meter or any gauges or anything that I might have that shows my voltage. That may be a thing to do. I also thought about maybe putting a DC-DC converter up here, and but I think I'm going to actually mount it underneath because I think that'll be sort of nicer. However, if I did mount it up here, those 296 volts that are up here anyway, I could just tap off of it here to run the DC-DC, and then I'd have the 12 volt coming here, so I'd end up with a lot less wires coming out of my box. This is the kind of shit you got to think about. This is what keeps me up at night sometimes, and this is what I just sit on my little stool and stare at and think about. This is the stuff that takes much longer than the actual conversion. Oh yeah, and this is pretty neat too. This box, I redid this box a couple weekends ago. This was kind of a rusted out mess, as apparently they all tend to be. Like if you see how this is a factory piece right here, and it goes around, and that's a factory piece right there. That's the only piece, and then this front plate. That's the only pieces that are factory. This front slab here, this here, all on the bottom, and I think half of the piece that's in front here, that's all new metal. And you can tell it's not the same because this is just a continuous seam that I ground over, made smooth. But anyway, so that's nice and solid now in my little glove box. Yeah, pretty happy with how that came out. All right, I think I've rambled on enough. Next couple days, I'm going to get back into this 12 volt wiring while I'm waiting for my new aluminum piece. Get back into this 12 volt wiring and maybe start running some 12 volt wires to the controller that's going to go back there. I need to executively decide that it's going to go there and put it there, and then run 12 volt wires back to it. All right, guys. Hey, thank you for watching if you made it this long, and we'll see you next time.